A few days ago, hello everyone. It's nighttime and I'm making a video for bed. This is bedtime reading. Okay, so um, a few months ago, we started seeing videos resurfacing about Thomas Sowell, and people were saying that we were lied to about slavery and it didn't happen the way that it was, because every time there's some talk, real talk about reparations, we get the Thomas Sowell pushback videos. So the people who made those videos, the young men and women who were paid to make those videos, because they were paid to make those videos, um, they don't realize that those videos are not new. And a lot of the people who made the videos, they have accents. They're not even from this country. They're immigrants who made the videos and put them out there. I'm not saying all of them, but the majority of them were paid to make a video about America, slavery, racism, and say, "Oh my God, we were never told that racism wasn't happening in other countries." Well, I'm going to put a link to this article. Earlier, I was doing a video on what happened to the officer who was attacked down in Alabama. And this, I hate when I can't see it, but I like to show you guys it. I printed this today, and I'm going to read it. It's off of PBS 13. It's called, ouch, Origin of the Idea of Race, which is the title of the video, by Audrey Smedley. Anthropology Newsletter, November 1997. Okay, people who made the video, 1997. So I'm just going to go through and read some excerpts because like I said, I'm going to leave a link, literally leave a link. This also addresses a teeny bit of what DeSantis said and some of what I said in the other video. Unintentionally, I'm addressing what DeSantis said because, again, I agree wholeheartedly with Vice President Kamala Harris said. He mentioned that black slaves, slavery was good because it taught trades to the people who were slaves. It taught them how to be blacksmiths. It taught them how to make clothes. It taught them how to, work the fields. And so I already said, no, it didn't. We taught you how to do that. So that is actually addressed in here. I wasn't looking for that in here, but it's just common knowledge to anybody who's been alive more than 50 years that our ancestors were sought after for those skills. You don't go kidnap people who can't keep you alive, right? And the natives and the other people that were being captured, they were killing their white slave their white slave counterparts and the foreign white Europeans who were capturing them, as Thomas Sowell was saying. See, there were people who were enslaved before the Africans, but they couldn't maintain the lifestyle. And then they were raping them. And because they were raping them and bringing all type of STDs, sexually transmitted diseases, they were bringing all type of other viral diseases because nobody had any type of immunity system was not built up. People who lived in the warmer climates, they weren't used to the diseases that were in the colder climates over there in Europe or the diseases from Africa, of which there were very little because it's hot in Africa. And the heat would kill off anything in Africa, and the melanin in your skin protected you from it. So those Native Americans and those Europeans that went and had kids together, more often, those babies didn't live, and those kids died, and they brought disease, they brought famine. So that's what this paper is explaining, and this is why I'm so glad I just happened to come across it, because see, I was looking and doing research for something else. I found out about what this lady is talking about. One, because I was alive when these things were going on. Um, when a lot of these things were going on at the end of what you all consider the end of slavery, we still experienced it, even though slavery was over. We literally still lived through it. Even though there were laws on the books that said these things were illegal, we literally still had to deal with men and women being raped and hung on trees. That didn't stop till literally like 89, 90, including with King being beat in the street. So Rodney King, not Martin Luther King. Of course, they killed Martin Luther King Jr. in 64. Excuse me, and it's 68. That's how the riot started. It was not over. Anyway, not to harp on that. The origins of the idea of race. And this is very important because slavery was all over. Now, you listen to this, because this is what I'm telling you about when I say about the color of the skin, about slavery in America. Contemporary scholars agree that race was a recent invention, and that it was essentially a folk idea, Folk, folk idea, not a product of scientific research and discovery. This is not new anthropologists. Since the 1940s, when Ashley Montago argued against the use of the term race in science, a growing number of scholars in many disciplines have declared that the real meaning of race in American society has to do with social realities, quite distinct from physical variations in the human species. But the author of this paper says, I argue that race was institutionalized beginning in the 18th century as a world view, a set of culturally created attitudes and beliefs about human group differences. She argues that the beginning was in the 18th century. When you say something happened in the 18th century, it means 1700. It means the century before it. I argue that it happened before that. I argue that it happened BC, before the common. They didn't do it based on race. They were doing this when I've told you I've read the Bible 10 times. They were literally doing this back in the Bible days. They did it to Jesus. When they put his ass to the cross. That's not for here right now. But she's saying at least as early as 1700. Well, but she's saying the 18th century. So the 18th century is the 1700s. Slavery and the coming of Africans. I'm going to have to skip through this because I'm trying to get to a specific part. And then the rest of you guys can read on your own. 3. It is only 3 pages. I think you all can get through to it. Just click the link that I'm going to add, and it'll open the story right up. Okay, so race and its ideology about human differences arose out of a context of African slavery. But many white people throughout history have been enslaved without the imposition of racial ideology. That's talking about Thomas Sowell when he said people were enslaved all throughout the world before it happened here in America. They were. And you heard what she said, not based on racial ideology. When we look at 17th century colonial America before the enactment of laws legitimizing slavery only for Africans and their descendants after 1660, several factors become clear. She points out 4 things. The first people that the English tried to enslave and place on plantations were the Irish, with whom they had hostile relationships since the 13th century. That's the 1200 years, right? First people were the Irish. Some Englishmen had proposed laws enslaving the poor in England and in the colonies to force them to work indefinitely. So that's some Englishmen wanting to enslave poor Englishmen. Again, not based on race, right? Number 3, most of the slaves on English plantations in Barbados and Jamaica were Irish and Indian. Again, they were not black. They were not African, excuse me. Irish and Indian, not based on race. 4, many historians point out that African servants and bonded indentured white servants were treated much the same way. They often joined together, and in the case of Bacon's rebellion in 1676, pay attention to that year, 1676, to oppose the strict and oppressive laws of the colonial government. Now, this is before the 17th century, when the Africans, before the 18th century, when slave worldwide was outlawed. It was outlawed. This is the time that Thomas Sowell was talking about. It's not new. Nobody lied to you. The shit been in the books forever. So when black people are talking about our ancestors and that came here and that were freed and that were given land, or that earned land, or that purchased land that should have come down to us, we're not talking about this. We're not talking about this. All this happened before the 17th century, in the years 1600s and earlier. This is what Thomas Sowell is talking about. So please, we're talking about the piracy that happened after 1778. Slavery like this was outlawed. It was no longer allowed. The pirates who stole our ancestors and brought our ancestors to Turtle Island changed the name of Turtle Island and called it North America, eventually the United States. They owe us reparations, people. Please stop saying that, because if somebody did that to your ancestors, if somebody did that to you, you would be upset if some other people came along and said, well, I want to be paid because they discriminated against me. We're not talking about discrimination. I mean, y'all got a lot of nerves. It's like they're waiting for all of us to die off so that nobody has a claim left. Anyway, let me skip down. Because I said I'm not going to read all of this. In the latter part of the 17th century, the demand for labor grew enormously. It had become clear that neither Irishmen nor Indians made good slaves. No, they did not. More than that, the real threat to social order were the poor freed whites had demanded land and privileges that the upper class colonial governments refused. What am I saying right now about money for the people? About all of us that's poor? What am I telling you? Money for the people, weekly payments with our taxes. We're not living back in the 1600s, people. This is now 2023. There's no reason for so much of our money to be going to trade agreements to foreign countries and we not have a trade agreement or a money for the people act for us to build our economy. And they took it from us. All right. Some colonial leaders argued that turning to African labor provided a buffer against the masses of poor whites. And that is what happened. So if y'all want the truth is out here. All right. Now the last thing I'm going to do is ouch. These last two I'm going to read and that's it. Until the 18th century. 18th century means we're in the 1700s. The image of Africans was generally positive. They were what? Farmers and cattle breeders. They had what? Industries, arts, crafts. Oh, I thought we learned this through slavery. You see how motherfuckers lied to y'all? You see how they lied to y'all to get y'all to stop talking about reparations? Dumbasses. What the fuck do they need Africans for if we don't know nothing? Oh my God. Okay, they were farmers and cattle breeders. They had industries, arts, and crafts. They had governments and they had commerce. In addition, Africans had immunities to old world diseases. What? Medicine? They were better laborers. How could that possibly be when, according to DeSantis, we didn't learn nothing until y'all enslaved us? What? We couldn't have possibly learned this back in the 1700s. And they had nowhere to escape once transplanted to where? The New World. That means after we got here. So that means all these trades and skills and governments that I just listed were brought to this world. The colonists themselves came to believe that they could not survive without Africans. Who said that? The colonists. The colonists themselves came to believe that they could not survive without the Africans. Not the fuck the other way around. Not the other way around. Not the other way around. Not we learn skills from them. They learn skills from us. So DeSantis, I'm not addressing it because it was said so that we could talk about that and take the focus off of reparations. Do you see the skill that we brought to this country? Do you see the government that we brought to this country? And y'all still say y'all don't owe us anything? All right, like I said, I'm not going to read the rest. I wanted to keep this video short. And please, I implore you to go and read the rest. And let's get that one-time payment to the white and black people who qualify based on lineage, $1.5 million each to us, and everybody else, all the rest of us, including the people who receive the pay, because we are still entitled to our money for the people too. And this money is to be invested right back into our individual communities, our mom and pop stores, for us to build stores, for us to build an economy, for us to shop at those stores. Because some people are of the impression that, oh, well, if you give them money, they're going to flee the country. No, the money for the people fund, that money is not to be sent out of the country. And that's why migrants don't get the money to send back to their country. Immigrants that are literally immigrants in this country, if you get caught sending that money to your country, you get disqualified. And you have to qualify to get it. All right. That's enough for tonight because I've said that in other videos. I'm not going to keep repeating it. Have a good night. Please read the link, the rest of the information in the link.